Today's episode is brought to you by Delaware Orthopedic Specialists. The birds are back, and you know what that means. Dr. Mesa joining the pod on a weekly basis, providing the best up-to-the-minute updates on all of our Eagles. Let's hope that we don't have too much to talk to him about with injured birds this season, but he and any of the other wonderful providers at DOS can talk to you about ending injury that you or a loved one have been dealing with for far too long. The only fellowship-trained surgery center here in the state of Delaware, why would you trust anyone other than the specialists? Them being specialists means that they are specialized in each and every part of the body. So if you come in looking for a specific doctor for a specific part of the body, they've got you covered. They're going to hold your hand and walk you through every step of the process, and you're going to make sure that you're happy with all of your results. 302-655-9494 is how you get a hold of them on the phone, or head on over to delortho.com to schedule your appointment today. After they provide you with wonderful care, head on over to Google, give them a great review, and let them know that Talkin 215 sent you.
Welcome to Talkin 215, your go-to podcast for everything you need to know about Philly sports. Whether you bleed green, trust the process, fly with the Flyers, or fight with the Fightins, this is the place where we break down Broad Street. Jake, Sean, and Joey deep dive into the heart of Philly sports culture, breaking down games, roster moves, and sharing the stories that make the 215 truly legendary. So grab a cheesesteak, settle in, and let's get to Talkin 215. Now here's your host, Jake Biasado.
What's going on? Eagles, Giants. Some say the biggest game in Eagles history. We got the coach. We got Chris Dogs. Is this the dog sounder? That's not the dog sounder. Is this the dog sounder? That's not it either. I don't even have the dog sounder anymore. But we got the Chris Philly Dogs in the house. And then we got Tomahawk Tommy T-Bone Steaks.
You need like a sizzle.
I know, a sizzle, a little pop.
That'd be awesome.
A little bacon on the griddle, if you will. I'll tell you. You threw a little bacon on the griddle pre-show saying that this was the biggest game in Eagles history, or this upcoming game will be.
And I agree, and I'm I'm doubling down on Greece here.
I know a little thing about the old double downs. As a degenerate blackjack player, I know a thing or two about the old double downs.
Hey, listen, I'm doubling down on that take. I'm throwing more grease on the fire. I'm putting that bacon on the griddle, like you said, and I'll put everything.
You see, to me, this sounds a little more like splitting tens. It's just not it. Like it's a big game this year. I mean, it's an exciting game. Saquon back at MetLife. It's gonna be like, it's fun. It's exciting. It's a game that you have to win. But like we talked about last week, they win the same way for the past 2 seasons. They should whip up on teams. There's a lot of ifs. If the kick wasn't blocked, if CJ didn't get in Q's way on the pick, if blah, 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 blah. But it always ends up in a 1-possession game, and the Eagles squeak out these wins. And like we said in our offseason stuff, where I said, look, until Howie Roseman shows that he's going to prioritize linebackers, I don't believe that he will. And until the Eagles show that they can whip up on these bad teams, which I'm going to get into it, I don't think the Giants are all that terrible. I don't think that we will.
And I'll say this about that. The reason I'm saying this is such a big game and I'm over-exaggerating is because I always think your next game is your biggest game. And to be honest, that's what the situation is. And all those reasons you just stated, that's why it's such a big game, because you have a chance to go out and build on last game. You already know my opinion on that. We talked about it last episode. Me and Coach kind of on the same side on that. But it's a game you could build off of finally. And I feel like that's what the mission is right now. And you heard a couple things the players were talking about. We can get into those as the episode goes on, but that's my take on that.
I'm somewhere in the middle. I think Tommy Moon, Jackie Moon's cousin over here, is hyping up this game pretty hard right now. But it's a divisional game. Jake, like you said, Saquon back in MetLife. I think it's going to be a huge Saquon day. I'm hoping, game. Right? Yeah, it's a huge game, right? I like I said, I think Tommy Moon is definitely promoting it pretty highly. But yes. I'm just looking forward to us to getting back on track, right? This could be a really get right game. Get back on track, and that's how I'm viewing this one.
I mean, how many get right games are we going to have?
Process. There isn't a get. It's not a get right. I'm sorry, Chris. It's a process. It's just another game in the process. But it's a game to start to make those things happen, to get back on track. And you're not wrong about that at all. I wouldn't. I like Jake said. I would not. I got to stop using. We all have to stop using the get right, because like Jake said, we've had a bunch of them. Like we're always thinking, no, it's just a process. You just have to build on last week, and I feel like they're going. I feel like they're going the right direction. So I'm just going with it.
Yeah, I mean, coach, like if they go out and win similar to the way they did against the Browns, the defensive line shows you a little something. Jalen doesn't throw an interception or a fumble or anything. They squeak out a one possession win, even if they go into victory formation at the end of the game. Like, are you going to feel better? It's another bad team. It's another bottom of third of the league team that we squeak out a win. Like, are you going to feel really good about that? Are you going to be coming back and be like 4-2? We got to win. It's tough to win in the NFL. Or are we still going to be like, okay, that's great, but we had 10 of these puppies last year to start the season, and it still didn't mean anything because we saw all the flaws going on.
Yeah, but I think with this game, the Giants, you could argue, should have beaten the Cowboys. The Giants, you could argue, should have beaten the Bengals. I think that their record at 2-4, 3-3, whatever they're at, isn't really indicative of kind of how much better they've been playing than last year. I'm not saying the Giants are good. I'm not saying that at all. But Daniel Jones, for all his flaws, was without his starting running back, was without Malik Neighbors, and was without other key weapons, and went into Seattle and won a game. Like, that's not easy to do. We've seen that we haven't beat. We're like 0 for our last 7 against Seattle, okay? And I'm not saying that the Giants are good, okay? And I'm not saying that if the Eagles squeak out a win, like Jake just said, that I shouldn't be happy. But inside your own division, we've seen, especially with Washington, anything crazy, weird, freaking can happen. You're on the road, and then MetLife is a house of horrors, guys. That turf claims so many players, and you're already looking at Milton Williams, Jalen Carter, Jordan Mailata, Dallas Goedert, potentially Slay being out or maybe out. Like, I think this is a game where you buckle your chin straps. You say, let's go. Like, you're right up the road, bus ride, business trip. We know who you guys are. Let's get back to this thing where we won like 10 of 12 against the Giants, 8 in a row against the Giants. Let's start that streak right now.
No, I'm with you. And you talking about MetLife and the turf and everybody already dinged up and all is a perfect way to bring our guy, Dr. Mesa, from our friends over at Delaware Orthopedic Specialists. You're talking about how everybody knows MetLife is just a killer. The turf they use. You have Mekhi Becton talking this week about how awful that stadium is, how terrible that whole organization in town is. I understand he was on the Jets or and he wasn't a Giant, but he played obviously in there plenty. Doc, with all of these people, even if, let's say, Goddard toughs it out and ends up playing and all, which seems very unlikely, but let's say in a hypothetical he does, or, Slay a little bit dinged up. You have Carter with the shoulder, who's Milton Williams with the ankle. Is playing on a field like this, on a turf, on a surface like this, just asking for a re-injury? Is it worse than playing on natural grass when they're already a little bit dinged up?
Well, I think it's definitely a harder surface to play on. I mean, literally a harder surface. So you've got the turf and then you've got basically cement underneath it. So you're hitting very hard on that. But you could equate it to like playing in Soldier Field in December. I mean, when you get tackled, it hurts. And if you have an injury, your window is a lot smaller. So if you're hurt and you're not 100%, you get dinged up pretty quickly. And I think this is a tough one. This is a tough one, I think, also for your skilled players, because it's a tough surface to make cuts and twists on. And people with like a hamstring injury, this is not the place to go back in my opinion. I mean, I would tell Goddard, no way.
Yeah. No, in speaking, we've talked a lot about hamstring injuries. It seems to be a very popular thing. Last year, heading to this year, we had Maddox out for a long time last year. Obviously, AJ to start the year. Now we have Goddard and Mailata and everything. It's a very complex injury, as we've gone over many times. We talked a little bit off air, you and I, about Mailata, and it's something that's still yet to fully be determined. But with him in crutches and still like hours after the game being able to put very little weight on that affected leg and everything, is a 3 to 5, 4 to 6 kind of window what you're looking at? Or the fact that they haven't put him on IR yet, is that optimistic it could be earlier? Or is it something that really just you're going to find out in the next week or two and they still may end up putting him on IR?
I think realistically it's probably in that 4 to 6 range. I don't know why they haven't put him on IR, but it could have looked different the next day. I mean, I think there are some ways to tell, imaging, examination to see how severe it is. And I think if it was obviously a very significant injury, they probably would have put him on IR. So I think they're optimistic, but I think, realism for these type of injuries is that 4 to 6 week range, unless you have a very minor sprain.
Yeah.
And a minor sprain wouldn't put you on crutches.
No, exactly. Goddard seems to be a little more minor, as Nick Sirianni wouldn't come out and say like, oh no, he's out this week. Would be shocked if he played. And then, like you said, this is not the game to test it, especially with what you saw out of Grant Calcaterra last week going and having his career game. But popping up on the injury report, like mentioned earlier, Jalen Carter with his shoulder and Milton Williams with his ankle. I haven't really heard anything other than what I saw on the injury report. Do you have any kind of insight on anything that it might be? Did you see anything at the game when you were there that might lead you to think anything about it?
This is breaking news that I've heard upon listening to this podcast. I had no idea. So I didn't see, usually I try to look, see if you see somebody going the 10 or going, and I didn't really see them at all, going anywhere or seeking treatment at the game. So sometimes these things, like I said, the adrenaline during the game, you don't notice anything. And typically when you take care of a college or professional team, you have a clinic Monday morning or the day after, and you see people that you didn't expect to see because they wake up and, ooh, this hurts or that hurts. And it happens all the time at all levels. So I think this was probably an injury at the heat of the moment. It was a close game. They were probably very involved in, in the excitement of the game and didn't realize they were really hurt till the dust settled. And we see that a lot. So hopefully it's not severe. I mean, if it was really bad, I think we would have heard about it day of. So.
Yeah, no, he kind of just popped on there. And Milton Williams at least practiced in limited fashion. But yeah, Jalen Carter popped on there and he was walking around with his jersey on and sweatpants, but he was just kind of observing practice. He was a complete non-participant.
Yeah, I think when you get to this part of the season, they're all banged up. So, it's just a question of, is it that one extra hit that's giving them a little bit more trouble?
Doc, with Mailata, with him limping on those crutches like that, and for it to be a hamstring, which is a soft tissue injury, there's people like to categorize. Could we have not gotten him a cart? Should he have been on crutches, like trying to gingerly get back to the locker room like that?
I think, mainly a lot of times if it's not a very severe injury, like an obvious, broken bone or something like that, they kind of ask the player where they feel if they're ready, if they can get up or if they can't, and then they call for the card. I think there was an offensive lineman for the Browns that they waved the card on really early because he was not getting up.
But, and they put him on an air cast almost immediately.
Yeah, but I think I think that if you had the ability, you kind of talk to and as you examine them, you kind of get an idea of what it is. I don't think him walking with a crutch or anything has made the injury any worse.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think what happens is a lot of times they stiffen up, and it's good to get them to stretch out, even if it's gently by getting their leg an extension. If they're sitting in the cart, the first thing they're going to do is bend their leg to a comfortable position, which is going to tighten them up. So,
and he was carted off the field. He was just seen after the game walking around in crutches.
Yeah, because probably it did hurt a little bit more, and it's better to be safe than sorry. Obviously they don't have an MRI machine at the link yet, but they don't know. And I think a lot of times you err on the side of caution. You put the immobilizer on, you put the crutches, so you say, okay, just take it easy, and then tomorrow we'll get the studies, we'll examine you a day later and see what we're up against.
On Mailata, if the Talkin 215 guys donated our hamstrings, Doc, how much quicker could he get back?
How many of our hamstrings would it take?
Yeah, how many do we need?
Yeah, I don't think you'll reach where it needs to go. Yeah, you'll be a little bit short of it. I think
I'm definitely shorter than Mailata. Yeah, I can confirm that.
The good news is, the only ones that are really surgical is when the tendon rips off the bone. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So, donating your hamstring, although it's a heroic gesture, is probably not going to get them on the field any sooner. I think the bottom line is just aggressive treatment and stretching out. And I think, like I said, these injuries, even in the best of hands, the best of athletes, the best condition, it's going to take a minute. It's a big muscle that crosses two joints. And anytime you hurt one of those, you can ask, San Francisco how Christian McCaffrey's coming along. But anytime you have one of those injuries, it's a long recovery.
So, Doc, last thing on Mailata, at least from me, we've talked a lot about these bigger guys getting these injuries that keep them off the court with Embiid or off the field with Mailata a number of times. When he is able to come back, is it safe to say that we should not expect him to immediately come back at the all-pro level he was playing at, seeing as though he's 6'8", 370, and he's going to be not able to keep his conditioning up for, like we're expecting, about 4 to 6 weeks. And while we want him out there as soon as we can, he's going to need a fair amount of time to get his sea legs back under him.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of times the way I tell athletes to come back to games is you limit the minutes. You say, okay, like say, for example, basketball, you go in for 2 minutes a quarter to start. And then it's game management. And you say, okay, this series you play, this one you sit. And once they sort of get their feel, because when you have an injury and you're not actively playing, your body has to readjust to being on the field. So you don't want to have them go, okay, go ahead, go at it. It usually is a gradual thing. And in the beginning, he's going to be rusty. There's no doubt about it. So you want to kind of pick your battles. But as he gets more confidence and as his leg kind of feels its position in the game, he'll be able to play longer. But yeah, there's going to be an adjustment getting back there.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you rarely ever see in football, like specifically in the offensive line, them be like, hey, you're going to play the first quarter, then you're going to sit for a while and play a little bit of the third.
No, I agree. Yep.
So,
and
hopefully, and obviously they have an incredible training staff and doctors over there that are going to be able to do whatever they can to get him back into that shape. But I think just for the average fan watching on TV, his first game back, you need to kind of have that asterisk in there being like, hey, he's back, but that's a big man that was off of his feet for a good amount of time.
I think what amazes me more is how they come back and how you don't hear about the injuries. Like, for example, Lane Johnson with his hip, I was amazed he was out there and he played, and it's amazing their pain tolerance and what they do endure. So I think if anybody's going to get back, a guy like that's going to get back. But you could tell, it's like you talk to John Runyon and he probably doesn't remember a game he played without pain. And that a lot of guys are like that. They're just tough individuals. So they're going to get back as soon as they can. And they're probably going to push the training staff and the docs to get out sooner because they want to play. But
yeah, I'm sure.
And they will play with pain. But the question is that a good move or a bad move? So the doctors have to put up the brakes and say, no, not yet. And they're usually the ones that kind of hold them back.
Yeah. So Doc, on the non-injury side, you're obviously, huge Philadelphia sports fan, huge Birds fan. You were at that game against the Browns. You got Tom and Joey here saying that there are way more positives to take out of last week's game than there were negatives. You have me and Sean. Sean's obviously unable to join us tonight, saying, what are you talking about? This is a bottom 3 team that we squeaked out a win. What did you leave last Sunday's game with in your head of feeling good, or was it just like, man, it's another team we should have whooped up on and we didn't?
Well, I look at it this way. I was kind of stunned because there was a 10-point swing right before the half. And if you give us that field goal and take away that touchdown, it's a 10-point win. And that's what we expected to win by, 10 points. So I look at it as one horrific play and some not so great plays. I mean, yes, I think Jalen is making a comeback. I think he has his toys back. And those guys made some terrific catches. I mean, that last catch was amazing. But if you can end I heard you say, end in victory formation, that means you did your job. And they could have put more points on if they scored at the end, but they didn't. They left at the 5. So I was happy. I was happy with some things. I think, and another thing that I will point out is CJGJ stopped an interception from happening. He knocked the ball right out of Mitch. That was a pick. And that wound up as points for the Browns. So if you add all that up, and I know you don't do that in football, but I was happy with how they played. Barkley didn't have a great game, and even in spite of that, they played very well. And it should have been a double-digit win.
Did he listen to the pod?
You know what I'm counting here?
What's that?
That's 6
ifs and buts.
That's 6 ifs. Yeah. That's great. That's great. We can if all the way up and down the field, all the way to the Vince Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah. But there's
if
one
we
fact.
win every game the rest of our year.
They won. They won. What do you want?
They won.
They won.
There's no ifs.
I mean, look,
they
we're talking about a team that got demolished by Tampa Bay, and they won this game. And for better or worse, and you got Sirianni off the deep end, whatever he's doing. And in spite of him, they won the game. I'm not off this bandwagon. I'm not. And
I'm not off the bandwagon either. It's just like there's still a lot I need to see before I'm like, this team.
I'm not denying it. But put it this way, I was not disappointed. I was disappointed in one play, how he jumped over the line and blocked that kick. And, that – and by the way, if he didn't score the touchdown, those points, it happened with the time off the clock. So and sadly, that's not the first time that's happened to the Eagles. But
and then so we stall out right before then, right? Because we go for that 3rd and 1. Saquon didn't get the first down. We stall out. We go for the field goal. They block it. They score, right? So that's we're driving, right? Yeah, for that field goal, but it's almost like the half expired first, and then they got the ball back, and we didn't get the ball back until 5 minutes later with the 10-10 game. Imagine them getting the ball in the second half and it's 13-3. The whole they're pressing. The whole game could have been different. Could have been and it just that one fluke play. That one.
About a lot of Disney movies before the podcast started. It sounds like a fun Disney movie. Yeah, could be a fun. That could be a fun plot.
But here's the thing,
Disney movie.
But I honestly think Saquon thought he had that first down when he was running on the side. I think I
thought he had it.
I thought he had it, and I had a bad perspective, but I thought he thought he had it. And I mean, he could. Well,
of course he thought he had it. You saw him what? But then you watch the replay, and he wimped out.
Right, but I'm saying, you're right. There's a lot of ifs or buts, but you know what? There's a lot of teams that would have been happy with that win.
Yeah.
Look, obviously, I'm a lot happier that they won than
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm happy they won.
But it's they played a clean game. It's just a fluky thing, a couple fluky things here. It wasn't mistakes that I'm damn, Hurts is throwing picks in the end zone and floating the ball and not playing well, and they're shutting Saquon down, and at least they played well to the point where it just took some weird happenings to I'll live with that. I'll live with some weird, especially that desperate. You're the Browns suck. Dude, they had nothing to lose. They're what are they, 1-5? That's a dangerous type of team to play against.
And not for nothing, their receivers are Jerry Jeudy and Cooper. They have legitimate players.
Yeah.
And they just have a quarterback that is a mess.
He's a mess mentally. And to be honest, their defense plays really well. What they did was they packed the box and they dared Jalen Hurts to throw against one-on-one coverage. And they were all right, AJ, just go deep. Devontae, go across the field. There we go. That's all. I just think the slow start combined with the fluky play made it for a closer game than it should have been, and it's something to build on for me. So let's go.
All right. Well, we're gonna have the opportunity this week to build on it in MetLife.
Jake is thinking about the sponsorship with Jesus. Tell him we're orthopedic right now. He's yeah, we got to cancel this, man. I don't know if this partnership is working out.
Yeah.
Doc, please stick around forever.
Well, it's honesty. Listen, I love bashing the Eagles as much as the next person, but my takeaway from that game was, I'm glad it was we did it. But then when you think about it, it's it could have been a blowout easily.
Chris, you're awful quiet over there.
I'm just listening to the back and forth here. No, I'm leaning towards with Doc, Joey, and Tom over here.
I'm glad. I am. I won.
Jake, I don't mean to leave you alone on an island, but that's that's where I'm leaning. Plus, I don't want to join the minority at this point. I want to join the minority. So where I'm at is where they're. I want to get jumped by these.
Where the hell is Sean?
Yeah, you're outnumbered here. But I agree. The fluky play, the pick that should have been a pick by Q. It's just so many things. I think that's a game, and then the Falcons game. And when you put those things together, where we should have won that Falcons game, this is a team that only has one loss then, guys. So that's why I'm not sounding the alarm right now.
Yeah, and to be honest, with that Falcons game, it was similar. I thought we played a pretty good game. It's just at the end of the day, it's just we just had these weird, we left some meat on the bone. And I can build off those games. I'm moving forward off those games, and I'm excited for the next one off that kind of game. Playing sloppy and against the Saints, to be honest, I know everyone was excited. So was I. This big Saquon run and the defense, but Hurts threw that pick in the end zone. I know there's debate if it was his fault or Devontae didn't cut in time. And bottom line is we were playing sloppy. We were turning the ball over. We were going forward on 4th down instead of taking points. I liked how they played against Cleveland. It's just that those couple plays made the score a little closer than it should have been. And I can see why, Jake feels that way as well. And I'm sure we all do, but I think there was a lot to build on at the very least. It wasn't one of those games where I was disappointed in the leaders of the team, maybe other than the Sirianni stuff, but I don't really care about that either. So I'm hyped. I'm ready. Come on.
Fair enough.
Beat me up.
I'm there. We all know 12:55. I'm sitting in front of the TV going nuts. Like I'm not sitting here like, here we go.
How many beers deep are you by 12:55? How many beers deep?
I'm going over to my brother-in-law's. He's got like his birthday kind of thing. He doesn't really celebrate, so it's kind of just like, hey, come over and watch a game. Probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4? Okay.
Probably 3 or 4.
Some light.
And I don't do nothing crazy during the game, you know. Probably throughout the game, maybe another 2.
I like that.
Finish with 5 to 6.
I like it.
Today's episode is brought to you by White Glove Car Wash. You know wintertime is coming, and you know what that means. Salt and brine on the roads. The leaves are going to start falling. You're going to have crap all over your car in no time. There's no better place to get it spick and span than a White Glove Car Wash. Now offering unlimited packages starting as low as $25 a month. You can go and get your car washed as many times as you want, so you can get any level of car enthusiast in your life the best gift that they can ask for. The ability to go daily and get that little perfect car of theirs clean, spick, and span. White Glove Car Wash with locations in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. You are never too far from the glove. All you have to do is ask your phone, take me to White Glove Car Wash, and your phone is going to direct you to the best car wash in the tri-state area. Let them know that Talkin 215 sent you.
Doc, you got any like Sunday traditions? Like, where do you watch other than when you go? Obviously, I was there on Sunday as well. But other than when, we're at the games, where are we at?
I'm in front of my TV cursing. My wife doesn't watch. She just listens to me and knows how the team's doing. So
there we go.
Yeah, I stand there and scream. That's the whole thing.
I love any specific food.
No, I don't eat during the. It makes me too nervous. It's so funny, that's what I look at. Going to the games is kind of like a roller coaster. You're strapped in, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But on TV, I'm like, it's just brutal. It's just brutal. And these games. I mean, the only word I can describe for these home games is they've been stunning. The things that have happened is just like, this can't possibly happen, and it happened twice.
Yeah.
2 home games, 2 stunning turn of events situations. Fortunately, we survived one of them. Mm-hmm. So, and the good news is the next home game's against the Jaguars. So hopefully they're a dumpster fire.
Are you gonna be there? What section?
Oh yeah, we're 101, right next to Lori. I slap hands with Lori. But yeah, it's hopefully down in Jacksonville. I'm sure they're ready to have a dumpster fire soon.
The question is, down here, since I'm in Jacksonville, the question is, will Doug survive it to make it to Philly?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. They're talking about like if they lose this, because they just played in London this past Sunday, and they're staying in London to play back-to-back London games. And the talk was he would have been fired if this was like a continental.
If he wasn't already there.
Yeah, but you can't fire a guy like in the middle of London prep as you're like in London and then have him fly back 12 hours by himself. Like, you just can't.
I'm sure you can. You're a multi-million-dollar organization. That's
you can, but you won't.
That's fan jargon. Come on now. We know.
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you what the word around here is. That's just.
He's got one more game. Come on.
I hear you. Well, Doc, we really appreciate the time as always.
Oh, no problem. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Doc.
Don't you want to hear about bone bruises and saving the knee and no back-to-backs? No, that's another thing.
Oh, you're talking about
that's another story.
Little Embiid talk.
I'll say one thing about Joel Embiid, just about his knee. If his knee was really bad, they never would have given him the extension. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
You're a doctor, not an accountant.
Yeah, exactly. But still, I mean, that was a big contract to give to somebody with a shot knee. So
that's a great point.
That's what I'm clinging to.
Perfect.
All right. Well, good talking to you guys as always.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Doc.
Thanks,
no
Doc.
problem.
Appreciate it.
Dr. Mesa, our friends at Delaware Orthopedic Specialist, 302-655-9494 or delortho.com. Schedule your free consultation today.
Don't you want a consultation from a doc that knows ball? Like my doc knows ball. Don't you want to tell your friends that?
My doctor knows ball, man. Oh my
Exactly.
How is your doc? Oh, he's a ball knower.
Sign me up.
So if I need a physical, he's the right guy as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Turn your head and cough, Tommy.
Doc Mesa brings the energy. I literally forget where, out there, everyone out there listening, I literally forget we're even recording sometimes when we're just chopping it up with Doc Mesa. The guy just knows endless ball, and I just love every second of it.
No, exactly. I can't tell you how many people we meet these people at tailgates. You were at the one and for the Phillies game and all, and we say like, hey, we'd love for you to check out, listen to an episode and everything. And then I'm like, hey, please give us any feedback, like positive, negative, whatever. Like what we suck at, I would rather know that than what we're really great at. And they'll follow, and a handful of them will reach out and be like, hey, just listen to your latest episode. And like 90% of them are like, it is so cool that you have Dr. Mesa come on and do these updates. Like, we follow Sports Doc on Twitter or whatever, but it just gives you a snippet and it's always right when it happens. So it's a complete guess. Like, it's so cool. You have a doctor on after they really know what's going on, giving you the timeline, giving you the road to recovery, the estimated, chance of re-injury. Like, it's the number one compliment we get. I'm like, well, did you see how like good looking we are on YouTube? And like, no, like, fuck you. Like, Dr. Mesa's the man. I'm like, all right, cool.
I definitely would say that Doc Mesa is he's the doctor of Jake. You always say we're the podcast of the people. Doc Mesa is the doctor of the people. Like he really is. Like he's the guy that you want in your corner, and I can't say enough about him.
Exactly. I'm glad he agreed to do the hamstring donation too. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a tough surgery, but
it's going to be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, we're still talking about this upcoming matchup. Like we said, Andrew Thomas, he's going to be out. A lot of people are now saying possibly for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is nuts. So it could be another big day for the defensive line. Obviously, Jalen Carter is a massive piece of that. Milton Williams been playing well. Our boy Moro Ajomu, we're saying is going to be a monster. He's been crazy. So hopefully we get everybody out there feasting like they did last week, because we needed to see it. It's a little bit of a slow start, but then once they got that first sack, once Nolan Smith got a tackle, which I don't know if they credited as a sack or not, it was like right at the line of scrimmage, but you saw him. You saw him get up just amped. And right at that point on, like the defensive line was like, oh shit, we can do this. And they started getting heavy pressure throughout the game. Loved how many 5-man fronts Fangio brought. I mean, it was almost more than not. Like it seemed to be the regular was we were sending 5.
I want to hear about.
Let me ask you guys something. Since you all watch Eagles games, I really want your answer on this, because it was racking my brain. And Tommy, you're kind of like the historian with the Eagles. You remember every quarter of every snap, every play. When's the last time you remember a corner blitz getting home and sacking a quarterback on a huge third down? Like,
Coop DeJean is our best edge rusher.
I mean, it's not. And I listened to, and this is how crazy I am. I listened to a podcast with the Iowa defensive coordinator when he had Geno Stone, Cooper DeJean, like all these guys. And he said, we play the most assignment football you've ever seen in your life. He goes, we're not 11 guys on there. He's like, we're one guy. You at corner, you are doing your one job. You at the end, you're doing your one job. And you have to perfect your one job right then and there. He goes, then we sprinkle in the instincts. Then we sprinkle in, and I'm like, damn. So if somebody gets beat, it's never what happened? It's you. It's you not doing your job. But Gene, like, timed the blitzes perfectly too. You've seen corners like show it too early, or you've seen them fake it, come back, and then by the time they step back, the quarterback snaps the ball and their timing is late on the blitz, they get picked up. He timed it perfectly too. So I wanted to ask y'all if y'all can even remember the last time you saw like a DB corner blitz from the Eagles get home like that.
I'd have to think, and that's a good question from you, but that is something that jumped off the screen to me from Cooper DeJean specifically. But the way they used him in the blitz, and it was like they used him a lot, and he always was like really good at it, and you start to take it for granted almost. You're just like, oh yeah, he just blitzing, like he just runs in there, right? But it's like there's a lot that goes into that, like you were just saying. And it's, when you step back and you think about it, it really does dawn on you like, oh, this guy's just like pretty skilled being that kind of weapon. And also kind of a reason I'm really excited to see Sidney Brown come back, because I feel like he's a guy that gets to the line of scrimmage and make plays around the line of scrimmage more so than anything we saw from him last year. So I feel like Vic Fangio and I heard about it too, that he uses his DBs in a lot of different ways. So yeah, it's a really good point, dude. That's just a really good observation.
No, for real. You really haven't seen it. And like you said, he's our best edge rusher right now. You're seeing very little from our actual.
Speaking of that, I do want to hear about Bryce more, but from Coach specifically, because I know he's about that he's like the technique guy, and I was trying to get that in. But 4-point stance, Bryce Huff. I want to hear about the potential behind this, because I saw a couple clips. He had his hands in the ground and he was getting around. He was making plays, and then I heard him a clip Elliott Shore Parks actually posted where he's talking about it, and he says like that's his natural way to rush, and he's done it his whole life. So like I just want to hear about that more.
Yeah, so with a 4-point stance, I mean, if you think about when people run the 40-yard dash, right? How do they run the 40-yard dash? They're low to the ground. Their hand is on the ground. They're not standing up with one foot back. Like, when you race your buddy, you guys are talking shit to each other and you're like, hey, you and me race right now. You're standing up and, you got one foot in front of the other, because we're amateurs. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
But low man always wins in football too. So if he's in a 4-point stance down there, and what we mean by 4-point stance is you have 4 pressure points touching the field, both back, both legs, both hands, 4 points to the ground. Your get off is so low to the ground that if you do a speed to power rush, you're automatically lower than that offensive tackle or that guy blocking you. So you have all that speed.
Mm-hmm.
If you're starting high and you're trying to do speed to power and the O lineman gets under you, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely done at that point. So a guy like Bryce Huff that has been doing that, he knows he can get low. That probably helps with his dip too, because you don't have to start high, then dip. You're already low and you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
It really allows him to get into his bag as a pass rusher, stay low with the dip and the speed rush, go low to high with a power, stay low. And then that actually helps a stunt a little bit more too. Because if I'm an offensive tackle and I'm knowing this guy's get off is fast and low, my kickstand's so fast, by the time it stunts, I'm missing up the pickup on the other end. It allows the stunt to be a lot better. So there's a lot of benefits to it other than, the things that I mentioned, low man wins, gravity, when you're speeding, when you're running the 40, the lower you are, you want to wait till you get higher at the end so you don't lose a lot of speed, but also comfortability. If he's been doing that, I don't care if he was in a 1-point stance, 2-point stance. You look at Von Miller coming out of Texas A&M, he never put his hand in the ground. And whoever he played for, Denver Broncos, Bills, said, stand up. I don't care if we run 4-3. I don't care if we run 3-4. Stand up if that's what you're good at. So I think good coaches let players do what they're comfortable at. But that's just a couple of the things that are an advantage to being 4-point.
It's cool to see DN styles. My fault, Chris. It's cool to see DN styles differ like that and still be able to be effective. And that's something he also mentioned was he knows his leverages and angles a lot better from that because he's used to it. So it's exactly what you were just saying. But go ahead, Chris. My fault.
No, I was going to say, no, since you caught that and Joey and you guys caught that, was that not part of the first couple weeks? Like,
I didn't see him doing it.
No, exactly.
Stance. Like, I did not see him doing that a lot. I saw him standing up like Reddick or and dropping a little bit and trying to set the edge from that. And I don't think he's a rangy, long guy. I think he's built more like compact and like shorter, like punchier arms. So that stance makes less sense to like make him kind of like play basketball with a guy instead of just going and trying to like speedball his way in there and fire off the line. So I didn't see him doing it a lot. And then I noticed it in this game because I saw some clips on Twitter specifically. And I was impressed with what I saw out of that stance. And I think it's becoming, I feel like a lot of guys do the stand-up stance, like the Von Miller. And I think that became more the norm, but like you can still be effective in whatever your style is.
Whatever's effective at this point, whatever gets him home.
No, I mean, you saw it was clearly his best game as an Eagle. I mean, he had a half sack, he had a quarterback hit. We talked about last week, and this is the last we're talking about this game. I want to finish talking about the upcoming game, but he had that big play on a run at the offensive line where it looked like he was the last line of defense. Obviously, he was the first line, but then there was a lot of green grass behind him, and you saw him just reach that paw out and grab this guy. It seemed at a full head of steam and just throw his ass on the ground. I was just like, I remember seeing that play and just being, all right, Bryce Huff, welcome to Philadelphia. That's the play that I was like, that's the guy we signed. That's the guy we need. And then from that point on, you saw the 4-point stance, you saw the explosion off the jump. Just it seemed like I said, with Nolan Smith getting that sack, you saw him going nuts. He didn't really go too crazy after it, but it seemed like internally he was like, all right, let's fucking get it. Let's get it. Like Chris, we're big hockey guys. We're excited to give away tickets this year to the Flyers and all. I remember I sucked at hockey. Like we were the only public school in Delaware that had a team, so we were like playing against all these private schools, and we were terrible. We were using hand-me-down equipment from the guys that graduated ahead of us. But I remember my first goal. It was like the end of a shift, and I was like, "Leave me out there for 5 more minutes. I don't care. I will never die." Like he had that tackle, and I just feel like he was like, "All right, put me back in, coach. I'm ready. Keep on feeding me."
And that's Nolan, dude. Like if you watch videos of him at practice, all the press conferences, that's just him. That's his energy. He's got that BG energy, right? Like he very much gives me that BG energy.
That's going to be contagious if he starts playing.
Oh, big time.
And the reason I think Bryce Huff's going to be able to be used more as that 4-point stance pass rush specialist is because Nolan's playing so well doing other things. Like I think he's probably our best defensive end right now on the team, honestly. And that's just perfect. Like that's what we need. The young guy making plays and improving, and then the guy we signed to do one job, just have him do it. Like just have him fire in there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, for sure. So excited to see what he can do against a banged up Giants offensive line. It's funny, like we talk about guys that just always seem to play well against us, even when they're not very good. Recently, it seems like Daniel Jones always just has a relatively decent game against us. Malik Neighbors cleared concussion protocol today. It's still questionable whether he's actually going to play this week. I would have to imagine that he will. I'm sure once he became a Giant, he was probably like, all right, cool. Now, like, this is our big first rivalry game. Like, this will be cool and all. Like, Giants Cowboys, yeah, but it feels like, at least obviously here, it feels like Giants Eagles is more than Giants Cowboys to them. I don't know. I'm not a Giants fan. I'm never going to be. So who knows? But, you know, I mean, I'm excited. But we're talking about them sending a lot of 5-man fronts last game. I think that just shows the confidence they have in our secondary when healthy. Like we know Slay missed practice again with this knee injury and all. But when our guys were out there, it seemed like he finally was like, I mean, it helps that we were going against Deshaun Watson. But still, Daniel Jones, statistically, historically, is not really any better than Deshaun Watson. And so, like, it's great that we have Q, we have Slay, we got Cooper DeJean in the slot. Now they're seeming a little bit more and more getting Isaiah Rodgers' trust in this defense again. That it's like, all right, we can send more people. We can send that extra guy. We can have these guys that are making plays that we always talk about that don't show up on the stat sheet. But when we're watching the all 22s, you're like, man, this guy, if you look at it, he had 2 assisted tackles and 1 solo. But he was buzzing around the field and he was opening up gaps for other guys to come in and make plays. So I'm excited to see if we're going to have something like that out of anybody on our defensive line. And then I'm still going to say it. One of these games, Q's got to have his first pick. He's so instinctual that he's just going to be on these guys, whether it's Malik Neighbors or any of their other cast of characters out there. He's just so instinctual that it's got to be his time.
Yeah, he wants.
You say instinctual. The word I'd throw out there is technician. Like,
yeah,
the way he turns his hips, the way he looks back and locates a ball, it's not typical rookie behavior to me. It really is not, and it's just so cool to see. Like when I saw him jawing with Mike Evans, when Mike Evans tried to like, do you know who I am? Do you know what my name is? Like, yo, 1 catch for 4 yards. Hell, I care what your name is. Like, I was like, damn it, man. We got one.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm in the camp that hopes that Slay is healthy enough to play because I feel like having Q matching up with, you can't really hide Neighbors. You can't really send them to, a certain side and anywhere. And then you have Cooper DeJean. And I want to see those 3 on the field together. And then you have CJ and Reed. I think they're playing really well. So, I just think this secondary is up for the task against Daniel Jones, who has had some success. It's crazy. Some guys it's like Dak plays really well against us. Daniel Jones plays pretty decent against us, and he's had his moments. So, like we were talking about it earlier, about how the Giants aren't really that great a team, but they do play hard. Whatever just happened to like good old fashioned NFC East, Giants, Eagles, 1 p.m. football, like that's a tough game. It's a big game. Like it just is, it's always been, and it always will be. And we just got jaded because we've won that matchup so handily in the past several years, but like, it's not those past several years, it's this year, and they're playing hard and so are we. And, we're all struggling. So yeah, let's get it. We got to get a win. I mean, it's a huge game. I really do think that it's early in the season. It's a huge early season game. I know I'd be over exaggerating stuff and all that just for the fun of it, but it's a big game for what it is. Let's just put it that way.
No, I'm with you. And like, even just us talking about this has kind of got my hype back into it,
Come on.
I usually get it by game time, but I'm getting a little bit early here. So let's go right into offensive player to watch. Tom, I'm going to stick right there with you.
Offensive player to watch, man. I'm going to say Fred Johnson. I'm going to go with a curveball right off the bat. Fred Johnson.
A man after my own heart, picking an offensive lineman.
Fred Johnson. I mean, it's big, man. I mean, you're talking about Saquon Barkley's big return game, and that's going to have a lot to do with the offensive line, and especially if Brian Burns. I know he popped up on the injury report. Obviously, we know Dexter Lawrence did as well. It's funny we're just having like an injury off, but Fred Johnson, he's going to have his hands full. I don't think Burns will miss the game, and just overall in the run game and the passing game, he's going to have to hold his own because he's going to be the tackle there for a couple weeks, and we need to see that we have, we're in good hands for a couple weeks. So it starts on Sunday. Fred Johnson.
Love it. Chris?
Yeah, this is the easiest answer in the world for me, and I'm going to take a really chalky pick, but I'm taking Saquon Barkley. So super chalky, but I think Saquon's one of those guys where he's not going to talk shit. He says, I don't think I'm going to get booed. I don't care about this game. Like there's no bad blood, but I think he's a competitor, and I think he's the type of guy that's going to be like, you didn't want me? Let me show you what you're missing out on. And I think we're going to have a Saquon Barkley day. I tweeted because I took a bet that it's Saquon to score 3 touchdowns, receiving, rushing against the Giants in regular season this year. I said I think it's going to cash this weekend because that's how confident I am in Saquon Barkley. I think 3 touchdowns, 3 tutties. Jesus Christ. I think it happens this weekend. I'm hoping it happens this weekend, but I think it's a Saquon Barkley day.
Hell yeah. Coach?
Yeah, Tommy stole my answer with Mailata being out blocking Brian Burns, but I'm gonna keep it boring and go a Jake answer as well from the past. I'm gonna go Mekhi Becton. Talking a lot of trash about MetLife Stadium and that field, and just coming back and playing there, even though it wasn't against the Giants, but blocking Dexter Lawrence up front, knowing the calls. Knowing, the audibles, listening to Cam, being able to be there. Blocking Dexter Lawrence isn't easy. He literally is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the game. So I'm going to go with Mekhi Becton just for all that.
There you go. No, I like it. I'm going to go another pretty chalk answer. You saw the chemistry immediately come back. AJ Brown. I mean, he's fallen just right into where we need a Philadelphia athlete to be. He loves these rivalry games. He's going to come up and be like, hey, I had my little welcome back party. Now I'm just getting right back on track to the top stinking receiver in the NFL. And he's just going to go out there and go nuts.
I like it.
Defense, I got to stick with my same answer. I'm going the same as last week. I'm going AJ on offense. I'm going Q on defense.
Okay. So we just go right back around.
Q versus Neighbors is going to be a matchup.
No, it will, for sure. Coach, who you got?
I'm going to go with Josh Sweat. And the reason I say that is because he typically lines up on the same side as Andrew Thomas would be as a left tackle. With him being out, I have no clue who their backup left tackle is, but he's not good. So Josh Sweat actually has been in the backfield a lot more than he was the start of the season. The last 2 games, he's been disruptive. He's been pushing the pocket. He's been making some plays. So I would love nothing more than to see this maybe 2 or 3 times on Sunday, right? Just the sweaty heads, whatever it's called, whatever he does. 2 or 3 times going against a backup left tackle. Josh Sweat, we brought you back. You changed your number for swag purposes as well. Prove it to us this Sunday.
Love it. Chris, who we got?
Took my Q pick because you guys hyped me up about Q.
We can ride the same guy.
No, yeah. I mean, I'll go with Q. I do think. Serious pause. I do think Q. I'm hoping and I'm thinking he gets his first pick. I think him against Neighbors is going to be huge. But you guys also hyped me up about Bryce Huff, and that's probably a pretty controversial guy to be taken as your defensive guy of the weekend. But give me Bryce Huff. I'll switch it up, Jake. I like Q. But I'll take Huff.
A guy who also used to play in that stadium. There you go.
That's very true.
Hell yeah. Tom, who you got?
Mine's a package deal. Can anyone guess what that might mean? The milkmen.
Oh, yes. The secondary.
I'm taking the milkmen. And I think it's because, first of all, my most excited player, like my most anticipated watch this weekend for the Eagles on defense is Cooper DeJean. I thought he was awesome. And I just want to see him keep building on that in this secondary. But Reed is just, he comes up in big spots. And I feel like one of the two of
He
them
always does.
It's like, give me a FanDuel boost. One of the two of them is going to force a turnover this week.
Turnovers.
Coop might be Coop on a strip, Reed on a pick, Coop on a pick. Who knows? But I know they're going to be sending Cooper off the edge again, and I feel like he's going to get. He could hit Daniel Jones in the right spot. He had one on Watson. He just kind of whiffed on it a little bit and kept himself in the play. But yeah, I like those two guys because we need a turnover, and I'm looking at those two guys as splash playmakers. Like Coop on those blitzes and Reed, just you already know, back there covering shit. So let's go.
No, I'm a big Reed Blankenship guy, so I'm a big fan of that.
I want both their jerseys so bad. I might get them split down the middle. It'd be like Blank DeJean on it, and it 33-2.
How about the ship? Because that's what we're gonna win.
Let's go.
Ooh. All right, Coach. Score prediction. What you got?
My score prediction. Jake may be upset about this, but I'm gonna go 24-20 Birds. Only a 4-point win.
This would be very similar to my score prediction.
Only a 4-point win, but regardless of who has the ball at the end of the game, a field goal won't do it. I think the Eagles have a lot of injuries that we probably could be worried about. But if the players of the game that we mentioned come out and ball, and I think to Chris's point, if Saquon has this homecoming that we all think, I think we're going to come out here with the W, and that's all I really care about. So I'm going to go 24-20 Birds.
There you go. Yeah, I'm keeping another. I've 4-point game. I'm right there with you. I'm going 27-23. I think we hold the Giants early to a lot of field goals, and we have two touchdown drives that we always have. That's just the kind of given. Eagles defense giving up 2 touchdowns a game, almost on repeat. Obviously, last week on defense we didn't to their offense and all, but feel like they're going to have 2 touchdown drives, bunch of field goals early, but we end up having 3 touchdown drives and 2 field goals. Chris.
Number popped in my head, 34-17 Birds.
34 points.
34 points. Believe that shit or not, that's what I got. I got 34-17. Birds on top. I think it's I don't know that we get that hot start, but I think we finish good. In victory formation, Jake.
Love it. Tommy?
27-20 Eagles.
Nice.
Yeah. They kind of control the game, I think, and kind of pull away at the end. The Giants keep it close most of the game, but it'll be a close one, and I think they'll figure it out. It'll be another epic one. I feel my heart's going to be probably in my throat, but if they pull it out, even with the 27 points, I still think it's going to be a sweat. So let's sweat.
Hell yeah! Final thought: Go Birds!
Go Birds!
Go Birds!